So I wanted to make this video in spur of the moment video because of how inspired I was by my reading of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. I've been reading it for a while now, so I'm not going to do like this whole recap of how far I've gone or whatever. I'm just going to talk about the one I read in my life for an hour, the pages I read in my life for an hour, and the notes that I made in my journal after I was done. Um, so I am at the part of the point in the story where Frankenstein is relaying his, sorry, I'm at the point of the story where the creature is relaying his experiences so far since he ran away from his creator to his creator Frankenstein. And we're on the part where I think the majority of everything that happens here is Frankenstein. So I keep calling this creature Frankenstein, but the Frankenstein in this story is the creator, okay? His name is Victor Frankenstein. Everybody knows this, yeah, basic knowledge. So I feel like if I don't talk about it, I feel like I will not have this spontaneity would not be the same if I waited to make an entire video. So I'm just going to talk about a few notes that I got from his narration and the explanation of the things he understood from his life experiences in the wilderness. Yeah. So uh, I don't know. I feel like I have to really tell you the parts where uh, all this narration, all this my notes came from. So it was where essentially Frankenstein found a place to, be safe from the elements of winter and my laptop is on front of me of winter and just the elements, the elements of nature. He found a secret space, and this space was connected to an actual cottage where other human beings lived in, and he could see them through a hole in his wall. But he did not know that anybody was living with them or living in that space. So, anyways, I don't know if you know about this, but I'll just keep. I'll use my notes to kind of point because if I start going to direction, my brain is going to go wild, and run away from me. So let's rein it in with my notes. So the first thing I talked about is literary references. Yeah, uh, there are literary references that this creature made. You he made those references to books, three books. I didn't write all the names. There was only one that I included in my journal, and that was Divine Comedy, yeah, and Dante's story and all that. Um, and he talked about how God, talked about God, and how should I say it? I don't want to read it, so let me just read what is in my notes here. Literary references that struck with me is the creature's reading of the Divine Comedy. I have that book. Yeah, I recently purchased Dante second hand, yeah, the Divine Comedy, and so many. I purchased that like July, towards the end of July, many months ago. And the thing about that book is that I have tried to read it, with so much enthusiasm, but immediately I open the first page, I am daunted. I quickly shut it because I don't want to feel as if, you know, I I don't have the capability to read it because it's nothing that you cannot read really. It's all in the mind, and also there's a level of technical know-how you have to possess. That's what I was thinking here. But when I'm reading the creature's experience of reading the Divine Comedy Dante's story, this creature is more or less this creature is more or less a newborn, yeah. And they have no way of getting any technicality or technical knowledge on how to. They just know language, which he learns from watching his. He calls them his protectors lovingly, yeah. So he learned language from them and he was able to read this book. And he came away from the book, with certain how to say it, perspective, certain understanding of the world. and mostly of the divinity of God and Adam and devil and all of that. And I was like, why would I now, like, why have I been letting, this absence of the technical knowledge stop me from reading this book? Well, I think my point in this video here is just to say the things I got from it. So, um, the creature speaks of the ways reading this book gave him an insight into his design, that of being created here, and being a creation, as a present visceral thing. Yeah, I don't think at any point in this creature's existence did he ever take it for granted that I've not gotten to the end of the book yet, but I'm in volume 2 and all of that. But so far, I don't think he has ever gotten to the point of taking for granted the knowing that he is a creature, he was made, you understand. But like that is something that I think that's something I know that even me as a human being I don't have all the time. I don't feel this visceral awareness of being a creation, of being created. Maybe because I have dropped, my own religious beliefs. I don't believe in God or the divinity or any of that organized religion thing or those institutions here. And then, but I can remember, when I was in the church, I remember how um, I used to have this whole visceral feeling of being a creation, being a creature created by this thing, So I don't know, I felt it was interesting to me that he felt it so visceral. God and Adam with his companion Eve, he remarks how he has none, different from being this creature in communion with their creator, that is God. His own being, faced immediate rejection and hatred from conception, and he felt he had more in common with Satan. And even that was inaccurate, as Satan had demons he was in communion with. He felt the bitter gall of envy for his loneliness and his status as an outcast, in all of creation, in all of existence. Yeah. So I feel like that's something I want to keep in mind, about this scripture, and I'm happy that I saw this perspective. And then the second thing is the questions the creature constantly presented to in his consciousness and his thinking. These questions of who was I, what was I, when did I come, what was my destination. And this last question, what was my destination, is very interesting to me because at the end of the day, you know I came here, so where am I going to? That makes sense, and I think I'm just seeing it in a new light, the idea of where is my destination, like after this, now what, yeah? Because this creature did not experience the process of growth into adulthood from baby to adult, from adults to old age, No, this creature was born adult, and not just an adult, was born in a very convenient body than a typical human being, yeah. But he had these questions to ask. So me, when I saw these questions, the way I felt was like, these questions to me, I see them now as very valid ones that require in-depth answers to. I also feel like these are probably what ring non-stop in the brain of infants when toddlers or children ask how are babies made. They should be directed to look inwards and create their own philosophy of existence. They should be directed to create their own philosophy of existence because no adult, not even their parents, qualify to answer. It is quite scary and very uncomfortable when it comes from the mind of the creature. I don't mean scary as I'm shaking in my boots, but I don't know. There's a fear attached to these questions. Yeah, why is this fear there? Because it's adulthood, because it is an adult, yeah, because this creature is already an adult and they still have these questions. And I know a lot of people have these questions all of their life, yeah, but it is not common, to always bring, all the time with this. It is not common, yeah. And I think it's not common because adulthood has a cloaking effect. And by cloaking effect, I mean wherein you as an adult are able to hide your knowledge of nothing and pretend to be a know-it-all. It is logical that full-grown adults have no answer. I think they pretend to not care enough to vocalize this question, but you can see the not knowing play the most inconsequential aspect of their existence. So that's my own conclusion here, inconclusive conclusion, that we are all just pretending that adulthood is just a game of pretend. Maybe that should be the title of my video. Adulthood is just a game of pretend, because if we were all born, or if we all came into, we're not born for, if we, if we came into consciousness, fully grown and adult here, how are we going to navigate the world with our not knowing? Without deceiving ourselves that, oh, we've known something because we've gone through the socialization process, to become an adult from a child. We've gone through the education system, we've gone through religion, gone through family. And another aspect of it again now, I'll talk about family at the last note, but we have to consider this aspect of being born, and in the creature's own situation, um, the creature's own experience in being created literally as an adult, just formed, just conscious. And of course, yes, the creature bears has parallels with Adam, yeah. And I've never actually thought of Adam in that sense. Even as a Christian, I never thought of him as being this figure that might be plagued and weighed down by his existence here, because that is how very simple-minded religion, forces you to become. You don't go in depth into what you are being told. But let me keep going. So my third note is about the creature's absolute hatred for its creator and his desire to avenge the hell he was plunged into by him to the ugly task of creation. I don't know, but is that not exactly the perfect lens to turn onto the very normalized and conformist act of pregnancy? Controversial, yeah, for some, but not controversial for me, and for the people that don't believe in childbirth, people that are non-natalists, people that don't want to have children. Childbirth is torture for both mother and child. The child immediately regrets its birth, and the mother is plunged into a feeling of disgust and disaffection upon gazing at the little man. Now, this is in brackets to consider exceptions of mothers that have immediate love and so-called bonding with their child. This is talking about those so-called what they call outliers. In this case, in my theory here, in my notes here, the outliers are the mothers that experience immediate affection for their child. I don't think it is natural to just experience immediate affection and bonding with your child, because at the end of the day, that is a creature, okay? And the way the creature came out of you is too painful, too torturous, and when the creature comes out of you, it is not a human being in that moment, it is just a thing. It's just a thing. And no matter like the level of knowledge you gather about, a baby or whatever, it is not a human being. I don't think it's a human being in that moment of its birth. Talk more of its conception and pregnancy and all that nonsense here. Like at the moment of birth, I don't think that thing is a human being. We, not we, but human beings raise those things to become human beings. Yeah, and that is why when you see people that are just born with um this pathos, of what they call people that are born and they just become this kind of you know, just enemy of the states, people that are not born with empathy, people that don't understand human emotions, that kind of thing. Like those are not like it, those creatures being birthed, at the point of childbirth, it's not, they're not human beings. That's my own stance. That's what I just came to understand, came to awareness of in this reading. And so in the beginning, when I was reading Frankenstein's moment of, bringing life into this creature, yeah, I felt, an annoyance at him for feeling so angry and so much hatred for his creature, because I was like, what is your problem? Like, look at how much torture you put yourself through, and how much labors you need, and how you're isolated from society, and how you're not even a normal person anymore because you have this desire to create. You understand? And then upon childbirth, you are now like upon not child, but upon creation, upon life coming into your creature, you feel immediate disgust and you are repulsed and you flee away from this creature and you immediately regret doing it. Everything is just wasted in that moment of seeing that creature come to life. And I felt angry at him at the moment I was reading, but now it's just like I feel like it's kind of the way society frowns on mothers that experience PPD. Mothers that experience postpartum depression, mothers that suffer, and I don't know. Well, it is a suffering because all their life they've probably been told that when they give birth to their child, they're going to feel immediate love for the child, and then when they give birth to this child, they don't feel immediate love, and then they feel horrible for not feeling immediate love. They feel bad for feeling disaffection for this thing, that came out of them. And it's like my notes goes on to say that I don't Victor Frankenstein, I feel he is a bit justified in his hatred for his creation. And I don't know, like at the end of this conversation, like my own conclusion is just like nobody should be created. No man should create another human being or another human life. We can't create human beings actually. We are socialized into becoming this thing called human, but for life, uh, it is life that happens. Yeah? You just put life into this thing coming out of your belly. You don't know what it is. You really don't know. And I know there's a conversation about nature and nurture, but still, like at the rawest form of it, in the most what do you call it? The most basic form of it here is just a life. It's not a human being yet. Like, and I think the first life that was created and turned into a human being was a mistake. That's my own conclusion from reading. The state of mind I'm in whenever I read, either's outlook of the other. Like when I read Victor's outlook and his ramblings about his creature, and then I read about now I'm now reading about the creature's feelings about Victor, his creator. I feel like both of them are justified, and the issue here is that no more life should be created. Okay, life it is enough. We should not do this anymore. Like it was a mistake from the very start of it or whatever. Yeah, and I've talked said something about family. I don't know if maybe I can make a different video. Maybe when I finish the book, I will make a different video about childbirth, pregnancy, motherhood. Parallel it to or make it show the parallels with Victor Frankenstein and his creation. I don't know. That could be a good video idea. That's my pen. So the final note I made is this one of good and evil. I want to point out how obvious the side to pick in good and evil is to the creature, but it's not consistent. It is not consistent with his one-sided ways against the world and human beings in general. He cannot see, I think, um, at this point of view, I think he cannot see how that decision, to rage against human beings puts him in with the evil and vice of humanity he so snobbily abhorred. Yeah, the way he can lift his nose and decide that these are vices, these are bad things, these are things not to do. I feel like that is kind of what you call a childlike aspect of his experience. That's the childlike aspect of his perception of his lens of the world. But I cannot even call it a child too much because when you put child there, you put this framing of helplessness, of this framing of needing of guidance, and this rejection of autonomy in and of itself. You get that's what I'm saying. Like, because children don't have autonomy, yeah, we twist them into human beings. Most of the things that are born are not human beings, yeah. But because children don't have autonomy in their early years of life, their children, yeah, we in our short-sightedness and narrow-minded view that is already clouded by hidden feelings of probably rage, disgust, and regret of this human life that we created. So of this life that we created, not human life, this life that we create here or we created, we shape them not with our words, not with our teachings, but by our feelings. We shape them into human beings, and these human beings grow into adulthood. And adulthood is what a cloak that we wear to play pretend at not knowing anything really. You get that's why the biggest enemy for me is the unnatural state of family. What we call family is not natural. I don't think human beings should be, you know, like carved out into groups called family, because the family unit has nothing real to offer a life navigating this planet, navigating existence. Family has really nothing to offer. Family is a bubble. I'm not saying, and this I don't want to start. If I want to say, oh, the people who say things like, oh, don't you have family? Don't you love? It's not about that. It's not about that. It's about letting everybody, letting. It's about allowing the children to be whatever they are, you know, without this institution, because family is now an institution. I don't know, it has always been an institution for the longest time. Family is an institution. You listen to a head, you are judged, you are punished, you are loved according to a given set of rules, and these rules are not, they're just given, they are very ambiguous, they're very nebulous, they are very, that is why no family looks the same. That is why children from different families present differently, and that is why some children don't even have families. Yeah, children that are born and lose their family immediately, they become what they enter into this system, and it's supposed to be as if this system is not the same as the family. But at the end of the day, it's just a bigger form of, it's a bigger expression of the tiny units of family. Yeah. So what was I saying? I said, um um or should I give him a different lens of perception when I view him? Should I use a different lens of perception when I view him as true, loving his family, loving what they love, hating what they hate, and feeling betrayed by their heartless rejection? Because at some point, what is consistent with family is that at some point you will be betrayed and rejected by your family. And I think what people now use to define their relationship, what people used to give weight to their bonds in families, the fact that despite the rejection and betrayal that is very heavy and present, you know, within this institution called family, they still cling on to it, and they think they are clinging on to it is born out of, it's a reflection of how unconditional their love is. And it's like when you are on a tumultuous sea and you have no navigation, you have no way to go. The only thing you have is this small lifeboat on, or this raft you're on, and this raft is being held by other people that you just came into awareness of. When they reject you, there's nowhere else you have to go. You don't have anywhere else to go. So you clinging on for dear life, you clinging on for survival, for belonging, it's not unconditional. Yeah, it's not unconditional. So those are the notes that I made on the pages I read. I think I just read 20 pages or something. I think I was from 101 to 140 something. Okay, so maybe that's like something pages. So this is not everything about Frankenstein. I think there's some, and I don't want to wait until I've completed the book, because that would just be very too much for me to consider. And again, this note I made, it was just because I was streaming and I felt so much. I was like, what will I do on stream? And I felt enthusiastic about making notes, so I made notes. Yeah, so that's the video. That's what I wanted to say. These are my notes. I don't know why I want to show you my notes. I just like my book. Anyways, I'll see you in the next video. Please subscribe, and I go on live stream randomly.